Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I am here to do a walkthrough of the New Choice Tarot de Marseille by Rosario Salerno. Now, I've had this actually for a while and used it. I really love this deck. The creator of the deck sent it to me to do a review from, and I noticed, and it's just, I have a pile up of decks that I need to review, so I hadn't gotten to it, but I noticed that this week they have it on sale, and so I think somebody in the For Love of Cards group had posted that it was on sale, so I thought I better get this up so that people can take a look at it and have the be able to see whether or not this is something that they want to purchase while they have an opportunity to get it a little bit cheaper. So so I thought I would go ahead and get this done today. So it comes in a, nice box, very nice, very swing hinged. It's very nicely done. It has the number of the deck, 142 out of 500 on the box itself. And it says the New Choice Tarot de Marseille is a hand-painted set of 78 exquisite cards created between the cities of Berlin and Ferrara. The figures of this unique deck have been inspired by the classical middle-aged Marseille cards and fused with an avant-garde style and the world of fashion of certain Berliner underground clubs. In addition, the numeral cards have been decorated with certain specific floral species and symbols that refer to the card's particular meaning. That is what I am so in love with about this deck. I mean, I love the deck in general, but the minors with the flowers that are intentionally placed really excite me. So if you've watched my channel enough, you know that I really love using pip decks. So a pip style deck is a deck that instead of having images, they have images, but instead of having scenes on the cards, look at these minors. The minors, the whole deck is beautiful, but the minors just, oh my goodness. So there aren't scenes on the cards, and that's a style of reading that I particularly love. Now, this is based off of Marseille, so the actual structure of the pips, so how they are crisscrossing and such of that nature, are from the traditional Marseille placement, which is something I also really love. And the other thing about the pips that I really love is that it has the curved swords and the straight wands. So if you're using a pip style deck that is this type of Marseille style, having the curved swords and the straight wands makes it really easy to see in a reading whether you've got a sword there or you've got a wand. So I love that about it. There's much that I do love about this deck. As I said, I've had this, so I have actually been able to use it, and I really love this deck. Now, I hadn't seen a full flip through of this before the author had contacted me. I know that Simon had done a walkthrough of it, and I'd seen pieces of it, but I hadn't seen the whole thing. So when they contacted me, I went and took a look at it, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Now, they talk about in the actual guidebook that it was inspired, as said on the back, some avant-garde, the world of some underground clubs in Berlin, and these are LGBTQ plus party fashion inspired. Now, I believe that I had heard something about that, that this deck was really positive towards the LGBTQ plus world, and so that was something that I had heard, but again, I hadn't looked at the whole walkthrough of it. I would say that I can see it, and I certainly see it in some ways, but I actually feel like it's fairly just inclusive. It definitely has an 80s theme to it, feel to it, a little bit of that sort of 80 colorations. I don't know, I get kind of a bit of an 80s feel to some of it. You can see sort of a party style. Yes, there is nudity, but the nudity seems to be across board with men and women. You see things like this in Marseille decks anyways. And this is the interesting thing, is that I think that sometimes we think, oh, you know, it's very modern, you know, he's got his butt hanging out. There are Marseille decks with the Fool having his butt hanging out, his bits hanging out, his male bits being reached at by claws from what looks to be like a cat dog with long claws going for the male bits. That's not actually something new in Marseille decks, and so none of that to me was overly surprising or anything that was jarring. Of course, we're going to take a look. There are some bit of bondagey feels to some of them. Again, you can get that in other decks as well. So I didn't actually feel like anything was over the top, even though this was based on party scene, sort of underground clubs. I am not a person who attends clubs, let alone underground clubs. And I didn't find anything in the deck to be off-putting. And you know, I, again, really enjoyed the deck. So I wouldn't let that make you say, oh, this isn't something that I'm actually going to be able to use. So I would definitely keep your mind open for this. I think it's actually fairly open and inclusive. The backing is stunning. I absolutely love the backing. And let me go ahead, and the cardstock is divine. It shuffles like a dream. It has gold edging on it, like real reflective gold edging. It shuffles, again, you're not supposed to riffle shuffle gold. I riffle shuffle everything. It riffle shuffles really beautifully despite the gold. So this is a deck I've actually used. Oh, whoa, sorry about that, folks. Okay, let me zoom in here. So here we have the lovely Fool. And again, you can see the colorations, very brightly colored. We have, again, older Marseille decks similar to this. I believe it's the Austrian. It's the Marshmallow Marseille was based on that. You will see sort of pastel-y type colors. That is something that you will often see. I mean, look at this Valet of Swords here. This is a signed card that came with it. I absolutely love him. Love his posture, love the drapey clothing, love the coloration here. Really fantastic. And you can certainly see that throughout this. Again, the bare butt pulling down the pants, that's a pretty common Fool motif in Marseille style decks. And so I think it's hilarious. Here we have the Magician. And these are not, so these would be not, the titles are not in English, but they do have the numbers at the top, as well as I think they're all fairly obvious, especially if you've worked with any traditional decks. This is a very traditional, and I'm not going to, I guess, keep repeating myself. They did an amazing job staying with the traditional Marseille imagery, which makes it, again, pretty easy to guess here. We have more of the trickster magician in this, where it's almost like a street magician that we often see, although they do put in the wands and the swords and the cups. I'm sure there's some coins. I see dice. So well, you've got a purse here probably of coins. But you do, it's that sort of, where's the, doing those little tricks and put a money on, put $1 on it, pick where it is, that type of magician, which is very common in older decks, more historical decks, so love him. I think this High Priestess, or the Papist, is beautiful. I think she looks very otherworldly. I think she looks like she does stand in between, right, the two realms. She is definitely going to be there to take us into the other realm. I just think she looks really otherworldly. We definitely have some sort of Madonna-esque pointy boobs bustier going on here, and some really gorgeous high heels shoes here. I love the tattoos. Traditional headpiece is there as well. So I think she looks really beautiful. and again, otherworldly, especially when you compare her to the Empress. And so the Empress is more, she's got a little more harsher lines, which is interesting. You know, we think of power and the High Priestess, and again, a bit of an otherworldly feel, whereas the Empress feels more voluptuous in a way, a little bit softer in the way that her clothes, but still very powerful, and looks very earthy compared to the High Priestess, who for me looks a little bit otherworldly, and I think that energy works really well. Again, very traditional. Yes, she's in a tutu with ballet slippers, but you do very much sense the tradition. I love the bowl of water here with the Empress, and she feels like the Empress, and I love the tutu. Very sexy emperor here. And again, we do have a lot of sexy men in here, but we have a lot of sexy women too. So it feels to me very inclusive. Lots of eye candy for all, so to speak. So here is the emperor, who is, again, there's a use of tattoos here. I like the boots. He's on the throne. I do like that he's out in nature, although you don't see a lot of that in either one. You still see the path of water that I like to see in an Empress, and you do get that sense that he is surveying his kingdom, so that works really well for me. Here we have the Hierophant. Again, we have that traditional, because this would be the Pope and then the Popess or Papess, and so we have that same traditional head wearing of the Pope. We have the finger positions. Again, the two supplicants do look a little bondagey here, right? There's definitely some leather straps. We have a mohawk here, so you get that again for me. And I'm not a fashion person, so I know nothing. But when I look at this, I kind of see that sort of trendy, as I said, underground clubbing of the 80s is what it feels like to me. But I don't feel it's not jarring to me whatsoever, and I think that you can very clearly see what it is that you are looking at, and it works well. He's that intermediary between the two worlds. Here we have a very traditional lover's card here. We have the Cupid, we have the man. I love his clothes, adorable. Again, you've got the sort of more free-loving young girl, although they're both quite lovely, much more respectfully dressed versus a little bit maybe more free flower child girl over here, but having to make a decision between these two women. Sometimes you'll see Marseille, you'll think people will talk about it as deciding between a mother and a prospective wife, but in this case, she looks too young to be his mother. So it can also be that choice between maybe a wiser woman as a wife versus a young, fertile woman as a wife. So this is quite traditional to that and doesn't, make sense. Here we have the Chariot. Now this idea of the Sphinx, male and female Sphinx, sometimes it's two females. We have horses' heads on them, not the use of the Sphinx heads, but this is again fairly traditional, although of course the bodies here look much more like bodies with a hat on it, like real human bodies versus like Sphinx bodies with breasts. So you do have that, but it is again quite traditional. The faces on the shoulders are there, and so you could get a little bit of that, a little racy sex play there concept, I suppose, from it. But it is quite traditional imagery, except for we have the horses here. Love Justice. I think she's absolutely gorgeous. I love her outfit. I love her hat. I really love everything about her. She's holding the traditional scales. She's got the sword. She's really beautiful. I love her hair. She's just fantastic. gorgeous. This is probably one of my favorite Hermit cards ever. Like, I mean, I've got some favorites because I love the Hermit card. I love the Marielle, is it the Marielle Hermit? I think it's the Marielle. I might be wrong. I love the Fountain Tarot Hermit. So I have a lot of Hermits that I love. Love the Tarot of the Hidden Realms Hermit. But this Hermit is just fantastic. It's just like spot on. I think it's beautiful. It's mysterious. He looks very shamanic. I just love it. Here we have a pretty traditional Wheel of Fortune. We have the Sphinx there, or sort of Sphinxy person with wings, Griffiny. At the top, Lady Fortune, the monkey, and not sure if it's a dog or a rabbit with clothes on. But it's a very traditional Wheel of Fortune. Love this Strength card as well. Again, if you love fashion, I can see where this would be really, I'm not into fashion. I don't know anything about fashion. I'm a pretty simple dresser and these types of things. So, but I can imagine if you love fashion, I mean, the shoes are fabulous. Her outfit's gorgeous. The headdress gorgeous. But the card in general has because she almost has a feeling of a little bit more primal with the feathers and things, and she does feel like she's imbalanced with that sort of both worlds. I just think it's gorgeous. Here we have a Hanged Man. Again, definitely feel a little bit of a bondagey feel here with the rope tying, but there are plenty of hanged men that have that. Again, I don't think, while I can see the avant-garde, I can see the underground clubbing there, I don't feel like it's anything that is obnoxiously in your face, or would be something you couldn't use to read for even other people. And so I think he's a great hangman. I love his boots. Very traditional death card for Marseille. You have the body parts being kind of harvested. This is a Marseille card that you will see in many Marseille decks. So well done. We have Temperance as a male, which we see in modern decks. We often see female Temperance, or sort of androgynous, where you can't see as much, or you can't tell as much. But there is a lot of the older decks that have male angelic Temperance cards. His hair is a little crazy for me, but he's an angel. I do like that you can see the fluid actually going in and out of almost like their glass containers there. We've got the winged boots that feel a little bit like Mercury. There we've got the being on land, but also the water. So it's just a traditional Temperance. We have a Crazy Devil. Now, again, if you look up old devil cards, this is not out of the norm for some of the old Marseille decks. I think that we have an idea in our head, maybe, that the the people in the 13th, 14th century, they were all prudes, but the devil cards on some decks, and the fool cards sometimes, are pretty crazy. There are often faces in the stomach. There are definitely sometimes mixed genitalia or breasts and things, and so this is definitely graphic, so you do have male bits and female bits and things, but it feels like a pretty traditional, other than perhaps the I can't even think what these are called, the garter, sort of the garter belt holding that perhaps you wouldn't see in the bustier, but it's not really that far off of many of the decks. It's nothing that shocking, or they're all I think meant to be a little bit shocking, maybe a little bit speaking to, again, this idea of excess and these types of things giving over your power. Certainly the devil card has that sort of bondage aspect as part of what it is, so it works. Very traditional Tower card. You've got people falling outside and falling out from the inside. That's interesting. You get a little bit more of a party feel to the flames, I guess, than Burning Fire, but it's a pretty traditional Tower. Beautiful star card. This is quite traditional. You've got her kneeling, 1 foot in the water. You've got I like the 2 colors coming out here. I love the bird. The stars are in that sort of traditional placement that they're in. Again, I love the tattoos on a lot of the figures. I really love this moon card. I love obviously the 2 dogs. You have the lobster, again, very traditional, but I love the woman in the moon. Now, I don't think it's meant to be the high priestess, but it kind of looks that same kind of blue-toned, otherworldly feel to her. And I do associate the high priestess and the moon card, so that works really well for me. Here we have the sun card. I prefer this actually than to 2 babies. Sometimes you see 2 male babies. Sometimes you will see 2 older males. Sometimes you'll see a male and a female. So you see different things in sun cards. This to me, I'm sure that's not what it's supposed to be, but they look like twin brothers that are out at the beach. But I like the idea that they are at least adult men and not little, 6-pack babies, because there's that sense of confidence and things that I pull out of the sun from a young male aspect with Leo and the fire that I think works a lot better for me than 2 babies that have 6-packs. Here we have a traditional judgment card. They left in one of the blue people, because we always have blue people that are coming out of the tomb. I guess they've been dead a little bit longer. And then we have the fresher, resurrection ones over here. But again, quite a beautiful and traditional card. Love this universe or world card here. I think it's really gorgeous. It speaks of abundance. I love the art with the cow and the lion and the angel and the eagle or the phoenix up there. It's just beautiful and vibrant and very abundant. I quite love this card. So that's the major arcana. I think they are fantastic. And I love that so much. I think this is probably my least favorite, and it's just because of his face. There's just something in the way that his face is. It's different sort of than the other ones, but I think they're fantastic. Can you just hear that, how they swish too? They swish really nicely. So love it. That brings us to the minors. Now, of course, the minors are pips, right? Up until we get to the quartz. They are stunning. Like, these are the Soprafino, the Lo Scarabio's version of the Soprafino, which is the ancient Italian tarot, has up till now my favorite minors in a pip deck. I have to say this might trump that deck for me in terms of the minors. These minors are stunning. Absolutely stunning. I love the Marshmallow Marseille minors. I love the Ancient Italian Tarot minors. But this one might trump the minors for me. I mean, look at how gorgeous these are. Now, let's pause here for a minute. So this is the wands, and this is what I'm so excited about with this deck. Okay, let me pull up the wands in the booklet, which I didn't talk about. I'll need to talk about that. So here we have the Ace of Wands, which I don't think has a specific plant in it. So it's just representing the wands in general. But when we start to get here into the Two of Wands, we have the Lily. In this state in which an individual is still a virgin, but their desires to be collecting in preparation is the best experience. So this is talking a lot about, I think, sexuality in the wands, creativity, sexuality, this kind of energy in the wands. So we have the lilies here for that symbol of purity, right? We have the heliconia flowers as symbols of art and creativity. Again, I just love that these flowers are specifically placed in. They're not just randomly placed. We have the Damiana flowers as an aphrodisiac in the 4. We have the quince flower, which is symbolizing temptation, with the 5. We have joy, red carnations, love and joy and pleasure, with the carnation card in the 6. and so on. I won't go through them all, but each of the flowers in the minor cards are there specifically to work with the energy of that particular card. So not only are they gorgeous, but they are not just symbolic or just artistic. They actually work with the deck itself, which I think is gorgeous. Here we have and again, these are, they're beautiful. Very traditional Marseille. I mean, look at that one. Let's see what 10 is. Baby's breath. Baby's breath. Innocence and purity of heart. So that brings us to the court cards, which I really love in this deck. We have the Valet and the Cavalier here. I love his hat. Again, I really love the tattoos. I think paying attention to the tattoos could be really interesting. We actually have a skull and a scythe here. Like, I feel like there could be something there. We have the Queen of Wands, and the wands in Marseille decks always look like clubs. They look like they're gonna go club people. Again, women's shoes on this are absolutely gorgeous. Very buff here, King of Wands. Perhaps an interesting position to be holding his wand in, but I'm just saying. Which brings us to, of course, my favorite suit, the swords. So again, so stunning. I seriously think that these minors, look at that, are my favorite Marseille. Look at the eye and the sword hilt. My favorite minors. They're just beautiful. The colors, the flowers, they're just gorgeous. Love the Page of Swords. The Knight of Swords, very, Troy, like that helmet looks to me like Troy of something or some nature. I don't know if my phone. The Knight of Swords, yeah, so he looks very like he's going off to war. Love the Queen of Swords. Again, we'll follow the lady shoes because they look pretty impressive, and I particularly like those. Kind of Romanesque modern style there. And then the King of Swords. He looks quite youthful, actually. I'm not sure what's going on with all the dots all over his chest, but that's interesting. I feel like I haven't noticed that in other ones, but I could be wrong. Maybe he's been pierced by many swords. Again, he looks quite youthful. And he has both that and the crown on, which is, I think, all the kings have. Beautiful Ace of Cups. Again, every single minor in this deck is gorgeous. They're just beautiful. Very traditional. Here we have the Page of Cups. The Knight of Cups. He definitely is the most hippiest. He looks pushing it more into the 70s. Love his hair. Beautiful Queen of Cups. Beautiful hair, crown, décollage. And here we have the King of Cups here. I really love his foot up like this. For some reason, he just looks so comfortable, and he's comfortable in his emotions. Love the socks and the wraparound. That's quite a look that not many can get away with, but he can clearly pull off. I love his beard too. Probably one of my favorite aces. I love Pentacles in Pip decks. I'm a Swords fan mostly, but in Pip style decks, I am a huge fan of Pentacles. And this is stunning. That is stunning with the male and the female. Love it. Again, I mean, look at that 3. Can we just look at that 3 of coins? They're gorgeous. Love every single, every single one. They're just beautiful. It's getting harder to pull them off here. I love every single one. Look at that. I love the oranges in that. We have, he's quite the cocksure, isn't he? Page of Pentacles. His stance, his drapey, low cut, low side cut. Tank there. He definitely looks very youthful and cocky. He looks very solid onto his horse, which I like for a Pentacles. She's beautiful. Again, the shoes are gorgeous. And he's probably my favorite of the kings, and he is on the box as well. But he just looks so old style Marseille. He looks so confident. I love the red beard. Yeah, he's probably my favorite of the kings. So there we have it. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I didn't show... There's a little guidebook that comes with it that gives a little introduction to what the deck itself. Talks about the minors, talks about some historical aspects, the essence of tarot, these kinds of things. And then you get a real quick, you know, so for the Fool, freedom, energy, travel, origin to evolve, liberating force, chaos to escape, delirium. You've just got some basic keywords for the major arcana, and then the minor arcana again gives you some basic information, and then it tells you what the flower is. And there are decks that do not do that. If you're gonna put flowers or animals or whatever it is you're gonna put, like put a note as to what it is. And even if you don't put why you put it in there, at least so we know what it is, so we could go look it up, would be helpful. So there's not a lot of information, but it's enough to at least especially touch in on those flowers, which I think are so important. Basic, you know, here's a 3-card reading and a cross reading. So, you know, it's definitely a little white book, but I'm really happy with it because of those flower, putting those flower information in it. So that is a big plus for me. So let's give these a shuffle so you can see how these look out and about. Again, I love these so much. And I'm pointing, I did point out some areas that were maybe in that little more underground club scene, maybe a little more risque. Not because there's a problem with that, because I don't have a problem with it one way or another. But I think that some of the ways that I've seen the deck written about or talked about, I would think that if somebody maybe didn't feel that they were very avant-garde or didn't feel like they were necessarily of the underground club scene or something like that, that they may think, oh, that's not really a deck for me because of the way that I've heard people talking about it. I actually really find that it's very inclusive. Yes, there is an edge to it. Yes, there's a sexiness to it, but there's a sexiness to a lot of decks, and it's not a very overt. The women are not posed in like strange postures that they couldn't possibly be in. There is probably more skin of males than there is females, but if anything, it's at least very balanced in that area. So I actually feel like it's very inclusive. And very, you know, it's not something that is in your face. It's not something that you would feel weird. I don't think, I wouldn't feel strange using this deck for clients or anything else like that. It's pretty solid deck to be able to use, which I think is fantastic. Obviously, you do not have... Ethnicity-wise, this is based on they've stayed pretty much with the traditional Marseille, which of course was coming out of France and Italy and Europe. So we definitely have European people here and don't really have, we have a little bit, but not, you know, for the most part. You're seeing very European people from where this obviously has come out of and going more to the traditional aspects and the traditional, I believe even maybe the traditional hair colors have been stuck to, although I didn't look for that specifically. So there's that. But I think it's beautiful. I love it. Again, minors probably have risen to my top tip deck minors. It shuffles. It's again, do what I say, not what I do. You're technically not supposed to riffle shuffle gilded edges. I riffle shuffle all of my decks, and this riffle shuffle is really beautiful. Will that eventually make my gilding look a little less perfect? Yes. But on good decks, such as the Fountain Tarot and things of that nature, it's worn in beautifully and still looks gorgeous. And I have a feeling this is going to be the same. I've actually used this quite a bit, and I don't feel like it's quickly starting to flake or anything like that. It feels really beautifully solid on there. So this was actually really a pleasure. You know, I'm always careful when somebody asks me to review their deck. I do try to take a look at it. And I know that, you know, people be like, well, you don't ever really say horrible things about decks. But for the most part, I don't buy decks that I don't think that I'm going to like, right? And when somebody asks me to do a review of a deck, if I look at a deck and know this is really not something that I would ever have purchased for myself and that I'm going to have major issues with, I'm not going to accept that, because then that person is giving of their resources, their you know, whatever they bookmarked for marketing, and that's not fair to that person. But you never know, you know, until you actually get a deck. But this one is just like such a treat to be able to review. And it kind of just hits all my buttons in terms of a solid pip. Especially with the Marseille formation being there. And have I again mentioned that, I mean, just sitting there and shuffling, all I do is sit there and stare at this beautiful backing. Okay, I want to just get a good shuffle in so you could kind of see. This is not how I lay out this reading of mine that I do. I might have to go up here a little bit so we can see it all. That's pretty typical for me. This is my general kind of tarot reading, where somebody might do, say, a Celtic cross or something like that. This is my version of it. I know I have a video up here about it. But you can see, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's gorgeous. The coloration is beautiful. Just a beautiful deck. Well done. Well done to Rosario Salerno. So I hope that this helps you. Again, I will put a link. I think I saw their Etsy shop maybe, but I saw that there is a link where it is on sale, I think through the end of this week. I'm not entirely sure when the dates are. Look how beautiful that looks fanned out. That's why I wanted to jump on this today, because if people were trying to decide whether they wanted to invest their money in this deck or not, that way you have a chance to see all the cards and make that decision for yourself. So I hope that this is helpful to you. And again, I'll put a link down below to where you can get that. And this is, I should say, somebody's watching this back later, the sale for this is going the week of November 20, I think today is the 21st of 2018. So if you're watching this at a later date, the sale part will not apply, but you'll still have seen the cards. But if you're watching that this week, that's when the sale is applying. So hope this helps. Have an absolutely wonderful day.